Hi, I'm Max Spainhour.
And I'm Troy McCormick. Welcome to Indiana Outdoor Adventures. Welcome to Indiana Outdoor Adventures. I'm Troy McCormick, and today I'm with Rob Haubry of Haubry Forestry and Wildlife Consultants.
Correct.
And we're at a field day today. Rob, tell me a little bit about the field day. What's it called and what are we doing today?
Well, today's field day is Timber Management and Wildlife Management Field Day, and we're greatly appreciated by the Jackson County Soil and Water Conservation District. They're a good sponsor for it. And what this encompassed is we are trying to get private landowners to come together, talk about timber management, what to expect from timber sales, how to do timber stand improvement, and at the same time we're also talking about wildlife habitat and deer cooperatives. And Quality Deer Management Association came out today and they had a speaker, so we've been talking about deer habitat that goes along with timber management.
We've got speakers from QDMA?
Yes, Brian Nentrup, the regional director.
And the DNR?
Yes, district foresters came.
And the county?
That's exactly right. The local SWCD coordinator, Rebecca Loster, came out today.
So we've got people who are landowners, hunters. They're interested in finding out, one, how they can maybe do more on their land to manage for timber and for wildlife.
Right.
And we've got hunters who are maybe leasing land or hunting on some friends' property, and they can find out about small food plots, planting trees. What all are they finding out about how to do?
Well, today, I mean, for private landowners, we were talking heavily about timber management, the cost share programs involved with some of the timber management, what to expect when you sell timber, what kind of opportunities or programs there are through the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Right. And that's why it was so essential for Rebecca and Ben McKinney and Rob McGriff from the Division of Forestry to come out and talk about those. Now, from the hunter perspective, the guys who don't actually own land but are leasing or don't lease and hunt on their own property, we've talked a lot about food plots, about timber management in respective to acorn production, what has worked on our farm, what we have found that is successful, and what we have done that didn't work quite so well, just to give general landowners and people who hunt an idea of opportunities they might have to enhance their wildlife habitat.
You know, I don't think a lot of people know that there are free programs that the DNR provides.
That's right.
There are tax incentives that landowners can take advantage of. They get free consulting from some agencies to come out to help with things. But then if they really want to go a little further, that's where Haubry Forestry and Wildlife Consulting can come in. You can provide some advice as well as the work that they can do on the property.
That's exactly right. The key to the district foresters and the government employees can come out and give you that advice. They can explain to you about the programs. When it comes down to actually implementing the programs, once you've got enrolled, whether it's the tree planting or doing the timber stand improvement or even putting in prairie grasses or putting in food plots, then sometimes you need a contractor, and that's where we can come into play. They can enroll you in the program. If you need a contractor, you can contact us. We're also available to give general advice, do a walkthrough, or do a habitat assessment as well.
You know, food plots are a big thing right now, and just in the programs today I've been listening to talking about acorn production from certain trees, and you were talking earlier about soybeans and what kind of species worked one way and worked another way. And you know, a field day like this is a great opportunity to bring a large knowledge base in for the general public to ask some questions, find out some advice, find out where their resources are and the types of people that they can meet and work with. How long have you been doing this field day?
This is actually our second field day at this farm. We had one a couple years ago in April, got rained out, but we had it inside. We still had a good crowd. The key to having the fall field day is usually it's cooler. We have different food plot varieties. The leaves are starting to turn in the woods. It's a really great time to be out. and we'd like to try to make this an annual thing because, you know, the knowledge of food plots and timber management and what has been successful on certain properties continues to grow, and if we can share that, the more people we can get involved in quality habitat management.
Great. Well, I know we've got some experts to listen to, and we're going to follow along on some of the field trips. So stay with us, and we're going to go check out a little bit more of the Haubry Field Day today.
Sounds great.
Rob, thanks.
Thank you.
But my goal on planting these soybeans is to provide something that can be browsed heavily and produce a lot of protein for the deer, because they're a forage soybean. As the bean is browsed, when the deer take off one of those buds, for example, if they take this off, right there at the stem, it's going to produce 3 more of these the next time. So as that bean gets browsed, it almost forms a bush instead of a tall soybean. And that's the whole idea of the forage soybeans. They're a little bit, do what, Larry?
What kind of beans?
They're Eagle forage soybeans, Eagle beans. And they are grown specifically as a forage soybean. They're not grown to produce a lot of pods. They're grown to produce a lot of forage for the deer during the growing season. And that's why I plant them. Now, they'll still have pods on them this winter. And so we had a half acre of these on a farm down in Washington County that we manage. And it was a plot just like this. We put up a containment cage of about 3 foot around it. The beans in the containment cage were waist high. The whole rest of the half acre of beans were this high. I mean, it looked like you took a lawnmower across them. The deer eat them down, and they really like them when they're really young. Now, you have to be really careful too, because if you get in areas like Washington County or Switzerland County or Dearborn County that have a very high deer density, a lot of deer per square mile, once you plant these, as they get about 6 inches tall, the deer will stay in there all night and eat. So on one of our plots down in Washington County, we actually had to put up plot saver fences to keep the deer out until the soybeans were knee high. Then we took the plot saver fence down and let the deer start to browse them. Because if you don't, the deer will eat them off before you can actually get some decent growth on them, and they'll actually eat their garden off before your objective time. So that's one interesting thing. But you can see that they're still producing pods, and so there'll be pods on there this winter. So that's something that we found out through trial and error. And last year I planted a crop called Imperial Whitetail Power Plant, which is a soybean pea mix in a half acre back here. And on this half acre over here, I planted Eagle soybeans. Now, I've always had good luck with power plant. There's not a thing wrong with that. But I had 3 deer trails going through the power plant into the Eagle soybeans. The Eagle soybeans were browsed down, and they didn't hit the power plant until almost that section of Eagle soybeans was gone. And that was a little bit of a testament to me that they really liked these Eagle soybeans.
Hi, Jim Donlin here from Westside Bait and Tackle in downtown Indianapolis. We are one of the oldest and best stocked bait shops in Indiana. Since 1951, we've offered a large selection of live baits, including minnows, night crawlers, bee moth, and more, all at a low, low price. We have a complete selection of name brand rods, reels, lures, and tackle. We also have a full-service rod and reel repair center, so stop on in and see us soon.
For more information, go to www.westsidebaitshop.com.
Here at White House Whitetails, after 20 years of growing trophy bucks, we have developed a product called Buck Bullets, a hybrid supplement.
Buck Bullets is not only designed to be an excellent attractant, but also a fully loaded supplement to improve antler growth and health of your deer herd. It can be used in your backyard wooded area or in your hunting area.
You too can add at least 10 to 20 inches of antler to bucks in your hunting area the first year with Buck Bullets fully loaded hybrid supplement.
Looking for adventure? Marengo Cave has it all. Explore the underground wonders of Marengo Cave with our 2 easy walking tours, or go on an adventurous cave exploring trip with hard hats and lots of mud. Kids will love discovering gemstones at the Cave Springs mining flume. This U.S. National Natural Landmark has been open to the public since 1883 and provides breathtaking views of underground cave formations. Visit us online at marengocave.com and plan your visit today. If you own timberland or open land, Haubry Forestry Consulting specializes in timber sales, timber management, and wildlife habitat management for private landowners. We are also experienced with timber stand improvement, contract tree planting, and reforestation work. Our specialty is wildlife habitat management. If you own land and want to see an increase in deer, turkey, quail, and grouse populations on your property, we can tailor a management plan specifically for your needs.
So kind of with what you guys have all seen, now we want to give you a few options of how to get that done. There is at times cost share through the NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation Service. They will pay part of the cost of doing your timber stand improvement work, like what we talked about, the crop tree release work. There are also cost share programs that will pay for taking cropland that is especially along a creek or that type of area, along a riparian area, take that area out of production, and you can plant trees, you can plant natural areas, natural grasses, those type of things. So there are cost share funds that will do this. It will only pay part of the cost. It will not pay for the entire project. There are also projects that might help you with different food plots or something like that. Those are administered mostly through the wildlife biologist here. So just to kind of cover a few of the different cost share programs, one of the ones that we're using primarily right now is CRP. That's where you would take crop ground, take it out of production, and then plant trees to it, or plant a riparian buffer of just natural grasses, warm season grasses, that type of stuff. You will get, with the CRP program, they will pay part of the cost of establishing that cover, whether it be trees, whether it be grasses, that type of stuff. They will also pay you an annual payment for taking that crop ground out of production. So that's what makes CRP so good. But there are other programs. One other common program that we're also using right now is called EQIP. That is a program that would pay for stuff like the timber stand improvement work. It will pay for it in invasive species control, things like that. The EQIP programs and a lot of these other programs are programs where you will be ranked. They will pick out the highest ranking projects, the ones that will give the most benefits, and then they will fund those. So you will be competitive with other landowners who are qualifying for that cost share. And so then if you are selected, then they will cost share on your project. There is also programs like the WRP, the Wetland Reserve Program, where you're taking wetland areas, bottomland fields and that type of thing, taking them out of production. And then typically you're going to plant trees or that type of permanent cover onto those areas, but they will also pay you for that. Those are the typical cost share programs. But I tell you this, I would encourage you to figure out what you want to do. So if you have open areas and you want to manage them for wildlife, you may also want to check with your wildlife biologist. He may not be able to provide you cost share funds, but he might be able to provide you seed. And he might say, well, here's the mix of seed that we have. It may not be forage beans like this, but it may be a mix of sunflowers, corn, milo, that type of thing. The other place that I've also seen some cost share funds come from, there's a Partners for Wildlife program that's administered through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They sometimes have cost share funds that would pay for different types of projects, you know, tree planting, maybe invasive species control, other types of wildlife habitat, that type of thing. Also, depending on where you live, there are different wildlife or different watershed projects. Those watersheds would be to improve the water quality of the White River or whichever watershed you might happen to be in. But they may also have cost share programs that would help improve that water quality. But you guys can use those cost share funds too to again plant trees, riparian buffers that would filter that water before it gets into the watershed. You know, maybe some fencing projects. If you happen to have livestock, they might pay for part of the cost to fence that off. The other place that you might also look for a little bit of cost share funds for too would be the different wildlife partners like Quail Unlimited, the National Wild Turkey Federation. Sometimes those people would also have a little bit of cost share funds or at least technical assistance that would help you.
After serving our country, serious injury shouldn't prevent our veterans from enjoying life. Paralyzed Veterans of America works with veterans to ensure that their health care and benefit needs are met, provides assistance with career needs, and offers challenging and rewarding activities. The Kentucky and Indiana chapter of PVA is proud to provide adaptive sports for members that includes hunting, fishing, trap and skeet shooting, bowling, and billiards. Visit us online to learn more about Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Lawrence County is an unexpected destination found in the heart of southern Indiana rolling hills, offering recreational landscapes, a rich limestone heritage, and unique outdoor experiences. This area is limestone country, well known for limestone quarries and stone carving heritage. It's also the home of Spring Mill State Park, geocaches, the scenic East Fork of the White River, and underground caverns. Plan your adventure at limestonecountry.com or call 800-798-0769.
Cave Country Canoes, located in the heart of Indiana's Cave Country, offers a variety of canoe rental trips from half-day outings for beginners to 2-day adventures for the more experienced enthusiast. Our canoe trips follow the gently meandering Blue River through the wooded hills of southern Indiana. Abundant wildlife and great fishing opportunities abound. Go to cavecountrycanoes.com for more information about our canoe and kayak trips. Your next adventure is just a paddle away. Life Essentials in Brookston, Indiana provides the products you need to become more independent. Products like our Journeyman wheelchair provide all-terrain access for the hunter and all-around outdoorsman. Every year, thousands of people are born with or acquire disabilities. Whether your special needs are for residential, commercial, agricultural, or just enjoying the outdoors once again, we customize our lifts and mobility products to fit your needs. We're raising you to new heights. Call today and we'll work with you to take back your life. Welcome back to Indiana Outdoor Adventures. I'm out hunting today with Jonathan Ferris and his son Hunter, and we've had a success this morning. Jonathan, congratulations on shooting a nice big doe.
Thank you.
And what we'd like to do is take a few minutes and just kind of have you walk us through the way that you teach in your venison workshops how to field dress a deer. And I'm going to let you literally with Hunter's help, walk us through the steps, and let's take a look and see how a Purdue Extension Service agent field dresses a deer.
Let's do it.
Great.
Of course, we found our animal, and first thing I always do is I start working on this end, and what I'm going to show you is I'm going to core out the anus. And we need to start with that because the technique I'll show you, it's imperative that you get this all totally free first. Then we're going to go up here and work from the front of the animal backwards and take everything out in one fell swoop, if you will. What we're going to do, and actually, Hunter, why don't you do this, if you would, come back here, hold the leg up for me. Okay, just makes it makes it a lot easier if you have a friend to help you. There's a flap of skin here, and people get really nervous about messing around back in this area, that they think that they'll screw it up somehow. But what you have to keep in mind is that the anus is basically a tube that lies within a ring of solid bone. So you really can't screw it up. If you take the knife and stick it in and just work your way around that ring of bone, you'll free that whole thing up. But I'm going to start here. And I'm simply going to grab a hold of here. I'm going to go in. And then once I make a cut, I'm going to grab a hold of this little flap of skin then and start working my way around. Okay. Now, if you can see, this is basically a straw or a tube now, but it's still a little bit tight in there. There's still some things attaching it. So I'm going to hold that and take my knife as far in as it'll go. Now there's a little bit of bladder. You can see that white little thing bulging out there. Okay, so we're going to be a little careful with that. And how you'll know when it's loose is it just kind of suddenly feels like it comes loose. I don't know how else to describe that to you. Okay, that seems pretty loose. All right, I've cored that out. It's fairly loose now, so we're going to stop and move up to the other part. Now we're going to start on the animal. Since this is a female, we don't have to worry about saving the cape or anything. If it was a trophy buck, I would not be, cutting anything up in this area. And, personal preference, some guys like to start back here and work their way forward. I think it's just as easy to start up here and work backwards. So I'm going to show you how to do it that way. What I do again is take the sharp, stout blade, and in front of the chest here, and I'm going to basically plunge it in front of the rib cage here, and go just down one side. You don't really want to go down the center because that sternum is fairly hard down the center. So you just want to go off to one side, and I'm going to take it in there. And you don't want to be real easy with this. You're going to really work it. Okay, like I said, this is an older doe, so that's fairly harder bone there. It's also possible to use a saw, but a stiff blade knife works fairly well. When you get toward the last rib, you got to be careful and you want to slow down, because when you get to that diaphragm, on the other side of that is all the intestines and the stomach and the things you don't want to puncture. So I'm getting down. In fact, I think I cut through the last rib there. So I'm going to take my time a little bit to see where I'm at. Okay. And this is where I'm going to switch over. If you have a gut hook or a gut blade or one of those Wyoming knife type things, I'm going to switch over. Yeah, and see, I did nick it there. Just barely. So we're going to be careful. And all you're doing is taking the tip of that blade and getting it just underneath the skin. And you're going to unzip it backwards. Okay. Now, one word on this doe. If I would have harvested her in early October, she probably would have had a fairly full mammary system back here. And I would want to cut that out. In fact, I would do that after I core the anus out. I would simply grab a hold of that skin and the little pouch there, and with my knife blade, simply fillet it out. Okay. This one is dried up. She's lost her fawns now for a while. Either that or she never had fawns, but she is totally dry, so there really isn't anything to remove back there now. So, like I said, we're working our way back, trying to be careful, just letting this slide under the skin. And since she has no mammary system, I'm not going to remove that. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Okay, one thing to think about is, where are the most valuable cuts of meat on the animal? And on a whitetail, a lot of that good steak meat is right here in the legs. So you want to keep as much hair and skin covering that meat as you can. I've seen guys take that mammary system, or if it's a buck, it's that other system, and fillet it out and take big wide swath of fur off of there. And what you're doing is you're exposing that to the air. If you're going to hang that animal for any length of time, that's going to all be trimmed out. That'll be lost. So I like to essentially leave all that on there. Okay, this is where you're going to get a little messy. You come back up to the front here, and I have this rib cage separated. I'm going to take my knife and switch it back, but I'm going to reach up here as far as I can towards the front of the throat, and as you reach in, you'll feel a hard cartilaginous tube. Okay, that's the trachea. And right next to it, you'll feel kind of a soft tube, and that's the esophagus. And I'm simply going to sever those. Doesn't take much. We've got those loose. Now, as we work our way back, you'll reach in there and you'll feel that heart-lung complex is attached to the back a little bit. So you're going to need to kind of get that free. If it gets hung up, you can kind of loosen it. What I want to show you, and this is something that's a little bit different about the technique we use, right here, you can see this thin-walled muscle, okay? And that's the diaphragm. That separates the heart-lung complex from everything else. And I see a lot of guys take their knives and hack that away, you know, cut it out, and after they field dress it, you'll see strips of meat basically hanging off the inside. What I like to do is I'm going to peel that off the body wall, and here in just a second I'll switch around and I'll show you how we do that. But basically I'm going to take my hands and peel that off the rib cage, and what happens is that diaphragm is actually attached to a very thin, it's almost like a plastic bag liner that lines the abdomen down here. And if you can remove that intact, especially if you have a little bit of spillage of anything nasty inside there, it will really keep that more in its own pouch, keep it cleaner, and get all that stuff out nice and slick. So you can see this a little better. But there's that thin-walled muscle diaphragm that separates those two cavities, and you can see I have a little bit of spillage here, so I'm going to try to be careful. What I'm going to do is simply grab that, get my hands off a little bit, and take the side of my palms, my fist, and twist and pull it down, okay? And you can probably see it best over here. I'm going to hold this, I'm going to twist and pull, and this is actually coming off nice and easy, okay? Now, this is where I reach up and grab the heart lungs, and I'm starting everything back, okay? I have the diaphragm free, mostly. I'm going to keep pulling that. So I get all this started out, okay? Now, can you see that plastic? I call it plastic. I'm sure there's a nicer term for that. But it's essentially peeling off that inside wall. Now, that came out a little quicker than I wanted, actually. I was hoping to talk about it and show you, but all that stuff from inside, I just pulled out. And since it was nice and loose, it pulled out nice and slick and clean. Once again, just kind of want to re-illustrate, since we started at the anus and got that little plug loose, and then we went back to the front, severed the trachea and esophagus, what we've done is loosened both ends. And so as we worked our way back in one fell swoop and one good pull, this pulled out from the inside and everything came out in one nice slick motion.
Join us again next week, right here on Indiana Outdoor Adventures.